Hey everyone, Garth here. Thanks for listening to Psych Sessions. If you could go to wherever you listen to our podcast and you would follow that podcast or like it, it really does help us as we are trying to get out to more teachers of psychology. Also, if you haven't checked out our website, please visit psychsessions.org and sign up for our monthly newsletter. We offer free resources and valuable news that you are going to want to know related to the teaching of psychology. Thanks.
One of the advantages I have over most people, I mean, I hate to brag, but this is a brag, is that I suck at almost everything I do. So all my theories come from things I really stink at. I even wrote a paper for the annual review of psychology called I Study What I Stink At. So, and since I stink at a lot of stuff, there are a lot of things I can study. What that story is, that's how I got interested in intelligence. I did poorly on IQ tests as a kid.
You just heard Robert Sternberg from Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. Garth and special guest host Jane Halonen interviewed Robert for episode 242 of Psych Sessions, conversations about teaching and stuff.
Hi, my name is Drew Christopher. I joined SDP back in 1996 because I just wanted to be a better teacher, and I figured something called the Society for the Teaching of Psychology would help me in that regard, and it did. I became involved in a variety of task force, a variety of working groups, and so forth early on in my career. And looking back on it now, I think one of the biggest benefits wasn't just becoming a better teacher, but all the colleagues that I met along the way, and I'm still friends with today, who are also helping me still be a good teacher, if not a great teacher. Those professional connections have lasted a lifetime, and both personally and professionally, they're probably one of the most rewarding things that I can look back on the over 30 years I've been teaching and say it's probably the best thing I've ever done.
To join the Society for the Teaching of Psychology for only $35 a year, please visit teachpsych.org. Well, folks, I am so excited to be here today talking to a person who I think is a legend in psychology and who comes up a lot in the teaching of psychology. And I'm here with guest co-host who I don't even know if I can call you a guest anymore. We've done this so many times. Jane, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
And let me introduce here Robert Sternberg, who is a professor of psychology in the Cornell Human Ecology College. You got to think about that, at Cornell University. Bob, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Jane, I got to say, this was your idea. You said, we got to get out there and get Bob on the Psych Sessions podcast. And I know that you all have a history together. Do either of you remember where you first met?
Well, I do, but I'm curious if Bob remembers. Do you remember, Bob?
I think Florida, but that's probably wrong. I don't know.
That's wrong.
Well, that's my usual. I'm usually wrong. Where did we first meet?
We actually first met. I saw you do a presentation at APA. This has been quite a while ago. You were in the middle of working on your theories about work and love. And I was so impressed with what you did that I negotiated with my college, which was Alverno College, to bring you in as a consultant for a day. And then I worked your butt off. I think you gave 3 presentations in one day, and then hit the plane and went to Kansas after that. And then we were able to keep up our relationship in Florida at NITOP. But the irony is we were both new introductory psychology textbook authors at the same time during an era when publishers put us on the road. And so we were often at conferences competing for customers. And so that's how our relationship got started. But we've certainly had some interesting other opportunities over time.
I really have to tell my wife about what you just said, Karen, because I was just saying that as I've gotten older, to keep my pants up, I need to wear suspenders, which you can see, rather than a belt, because anytime I wear the belt, my pants fall down. It doesn't matter how tight the pants are, my pants fall down. And so I always wear suspenders. And now I said to Karen, I don't know what happened. And now I know. You worked my butt off.
I did.
Yeah, and that explains it. Well, at least if I learned nothing else today, at least I've learned that, and I can explain it to my wife, and I'll tell my kids why I always wear suspenders instead of a belt. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for the stunning psychological and physiological insight.
Excellent.
Jane, what struck you about Bob's work that because I've shared this experience where you go and you hear from somebody, or you meet somebody and you think, our team needs more of that. What was it?
Well, I was working at Alverno, which was a women's college at the time, and a lot of the students were non-traditional, so that they were working and trying to do school. And because our college had a tradition of everybody canceled classes for a day, and the entire college, faculty and students, studied some topic together. And so it just seemed to me, going to the APA presentation where Bob was on fire that day. He really did a great presentation. As far as I know, his pants stayed up. So I just add that. But his approach was so interesting from the standpoint of taking a really practical problem and figuring out strategies to be able to address that. And I think as I've watched his career progress over time, I've always been impressed how he takes something that's bugging him and turns it into a major research project that somehow ends up being fundable and turns into about 50 articles. Would you think that's a fair description of your process, Bob?
I think the articles is fair. The fundable, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, you have made quite a contribution. Do you know how many articles are on your CV, Bob, or how many books you've written? Either of those?
No, I don't know. It's over 2,000.
Yeah, so prolific. And what are you doing these days? Because I'm sure we'll get back into what you've done in the past, but are you following any new research? Are you doing any new research? Are you working on a book?
Well,
He's always working on a book.
Yeah, I have a research group of about 60 people, so it would take more time than we have for me to go over all of the things we're doing. I can sort of give you an overview. That might be the best thing. So we have a lot of different areas of work. One is love, and we have cross-cultural study of love of homeland going on right now. That's being done in a number of countries. It's being done in Poland and Greece and the United States. But it's the idea of the love of homeland is to see whether people mean the same thing by loving their country in different places. And I think it's a really exciting international collaboration. So that's one kind of thing we've had going on. Another thing is I have, with my wife Karen, a relatively new theory of love called the Relic theory of love, which was published within the last year or so. And so I have some students working on testing this new theory. And what's different about it, I should say, is that the original, all my theories don't stay very long. I'm sort of not like I'm not the Howard Gardner type who sort of comes up with a theory and sticks with it for a long time. I don't stick with mine very long. So it started off with a triangular theory of love, which had 3 parts. intimacy, passion, and commitment. And then it became a duplex theory where I added stories. So the idea was, they said, well, how do you get these different triangles of love, different combinations of intimacy, passion, and commitment? And so the second part was the theory of love as a story, which is the way you get these different parts, kinds of love, is through stories you tell. So you can have a story like a travel story where you travel together through time, or a business story where you're two business partners running a business in your relationship, or a fairy tale story where you have a prince and a princess, or you can have a horror story where you have a terrorizer and a victim. So then it became duplex, and the more recent version, but not most recent version, the version that was published about a year ago, is where we added a contextual part. And that is, I'd always viewed the context in which you live as something that impinges upon, that affects your love, but it's not part of it. And what I came to realize is, and this has become a central theme in my work, is you can't really separate yourself from your context. Lately, I've been arguing that everything is a person by task by situation interaction, that even abilities aren't inside you. They're you interacting with tasks in particular environmental context. So the penultimate version of the theory, the Relic theory, is that it borrows from Bronfenbrenner, that the microsystem, the family or the work you work in, or the macro system, the socio-cultural environment, milieu in which you work, those become inextricably tied with the love, because in some places you just can't, you're not allowed to love someone, or you're allowed to love them, but you're discouraged.
APA Publishing wants to give you 15% off your order. If you teach classes like counseling, clinical psychopathology, or multicultural psychology, then this is for you. APA Publishing has books that are written by experts that are grounded in evidence and really help teachers. I'll give you a couple of examples. There's a book they have right now called Helping Skills. It's in its 6th edition, and it gives students clear, practical frameworks for understanding and learning counseling techniques. It's perfect for hands-on practice and skill development. Here's another one. Cultural Humility helps students build self-awareness and engage meaningfully across diverse identities and experiences. So head to apa.org because they want to give you 15% off your order today using code PS15. That's capital P, capital S, 15. Go check out APA Publishing.
Or in another environment, you might be encouraged to love someone who you'd never love except for your being in that environment. And so you're kind of pushed into it. So in the almost new version, the idea was to look at how the context in which you're living kind of propels you into some relationships, but it almost forces you out of others. Or if it doesn't force you out of it, under the context can undermine the relationship without you're attributing it to the context. You think it's you and your partner when it's really being chipped away at from the outside. And the most recent version, which is not published yet, is the Augmented Relic theory. And this is something where some students are testing now. And that's that people have an implicit theory of compatibility, what it means to be compatible with somebody else. And the idea of this new version of the theory is that you can have all those other things, but if you mean different things by what's compatible, then it can undermine the relationship. So, for example, my wife is a martial artist. She's a 3rd-degree black belt in karate and a black belt in kung fu and a brown belt in judo. And I mean, this is like so not me.
I was just thinking that very thing.
Utter not me-ness. If you were to have a not me-ness scale from 1 to 10, this would be a 10 not me. And I'm a collector, and I sometimes I hate myself because I collect so much crap, but I'm a collector, and she doesn't relate to that at all. She's always trying to throw away stuff. So I have to lock up my collection. Not really. But so these are things that another couple might say, well, we're too different. And we're really different. I mean, like she's from Germany, and in World War II, she was on the other side, and, she's a different religion. But in terms of our implicit theory, our folk theory of what it means to be compatible, we really get along well. We have the same views about raising kids. We have 14-year-old triplets. And with triplets, if you don't have the same views, you're really screwed because you got 3 of them at once. And we have similar views about the role of religion and about what kinds of things are important. But someone else might have the exact same similarities and differences, but that, in terms of their implicit theory of compatibility, it doesn't work. So that's the new version that we're testing now. And in terms of my theories of intelligence, so I started off with so-called componential theory. That was in the dark ages. I published it first in 1977. And I thought that what was important about intelligence was not the factors like spatial ability and verbal ability and math ability, but rather the processes that underlay them. And I thought that because I thought, well, if you look at tests like the SAT, someone might be doing poorly, not because they don't think well, but because they don't know what the words mean, or because they don't know the math. And so it looks like they don't think well, when in fact the first language is not English, or they went to a school that didn't prepare them well for the test, or whatever. So that's what I believed in 77. I thought, man, I really got it here. And I can see what's wrong with those psychometric theories and those dummies that believe in those. They're really suckers. And then I stayed with that for a few years, and then I went to the triarchic theory because all my theories come from personal experiences, because of personal experiences while I was students. And so I said, well, the problem with that theory is that it's all about IQ test problems. So what seemed to be a really great theory sort of didn't seem so great anymore. And so the triarchic theory was that, no, this is not complete. There are 3 kinds of abilities that interact with each other: analytical, creative, and practical. So the idea is that you need creative abilities that come up with ideas, and analytical abilities to know if they're good ideas, and practical abilities to apply your ideas and to persuade others of the value. So I stuck with that for a few years. And I thought, well, now at least I have it, it's about time. And then I decided that wasn't so good, because what I realized watching people who are really successful is they weren't successful by virtue of just having 3 abilities, but rather by virtue of they're figuring out what it is they do really well, what they do badly, how they can make the most of their strengths, and how they can correct or compensate for their weaknesses. So if I looked at my advisors, my advisor at Yale as an undergrad was Enzil Tolvin. And what he was really good at was coming up with experiments where if everyone believes X, he'll show that X isn't really always true. And he made a whole career out of showing that if everyone believes something, it's probably wrong. And that's what he told me. If everyone believes something, it's probably wrong. And then Gordon Bauer, my graduate advisor at Stanford, was of equal eminence, but he had a completely different tactic. And his way of doing things was, what's the big problem that's out there today, and what is it that people are just missing in terms of trying to solve that problem, and how can I communicate that in a way that people say, yeah, this is something I really need to know. And what I realized is that they figured out what it is they could do well, and then they made the most of it. So that became the theory of successful intelligence. That hung around for a few years, and I thought, well, this time I have it.
Can I ask you a related question for intelligence? This is one of my favorite stories about you. I think I remember you were talking about trying to attract the attention of a young lady in junior high.
Close.
By administering an intelligence test to her. Do you recall?
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about what your reasoning was, since that's not exactly an aphrodisiac, I don't think.
You're right. One of the advantages I have over most people, I mean, I hate to brag, but this is a brag, is that I suck at almost everything I do. So all my theories come from things I really stink at. I even wrote a paper for the annual review of psychology called I Study What I Stink At. So, and since I stink at a lot of stuff, there are a lot of things I can study. What that story is, that's how I got interested in intelligence. I did poorly on IQ tests as a kid. And so when I was 13 in 7th grade, it was junior high school, I did a project on development of mental tests. And part of it was to create my own mental test. And part of it was I found the Stanford Binet intelligence test in the library of my school. So it was the town library, which was right opposite the school. They were right by each other. So I had this idea that I'd give IQ tests to some of my classmates for practice. And the first one I gave it to was Sandy, which is actually her real name. I should use a fake name, was
Too late.
Susanna. So I gave this test to Susanna, whose real name was Sandy. And she, because I was interested in her, I thought this would break the ice. That's true. So I not only stunk at the IQ test, I wasn't too hot at social intelligence either. So it didn't work. But here's the interesting denouement or whatever it is, follow-up. Sandy and I was 13. I'm 75 now, soon to be 76. We're still friends. We still correspond regularly. She's on my mailing list. She's one of the most active members. She became a lawyer. She made the pitiful mistake of, hooking up with somebody else, but everyone makes mistakes in their lives. But anyway, so we're still in touch and we're still friends. And
her IQ is what?
Really high. I don't feel I could. That was just a test I gave when I was 13. But she became a lawyer. Her husband's a lawyer. She has kids. I have 5 kids. So I guess we both. She only has 2. Not that I'm competitive, but I have 3 more than she has. Not that it matters. That I just want to point out that 5 is 3 greater than 2, or at least I think so. In a year or 2, I won't be able to do the subtraction. So, yeah, that's that story. Yeah,
I do love that story.
Yeah,
since we've taken a pause in the kind of the chronology of your theories, I do want to ask about something that.
Sure.
You mentioned kind of knowing what a person's strengths and weaknesses can be beneficial to their success.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinion about where should people put their efforts? Like if you had 100% of effort, would you throw that all behind your strengths and what you're good at in order to find success? Or would you shore up? How would you divide that up to shore up weaknesses, if that makes any sense? Hi, folks. Let's talk about intro psych textbooks. They often tell our students what to learn, but they don't tell them how to learn. And that's why Norton has brought in award-winning teachers like Stephen Chu and Ebony Glover to join Sarah Grisson on the title Psychology in Your Life, with a new emphasis on critical thinking through their Impact Learning Science Framework. Impact is an acronym, and it consists of 6 of the most actionable learning science principles that students need to succeed. And for the first time, these strategies aren't just explained, they're interactive. So as your students are learning course content, they're also practicing skills like monitoring, attending, and thinking critically, using the study tips that feel most helpful to them. And the result is that students don't just learn psychology, they use psychology to succeed in school and in life. And Norton is going to give you a $15 thank you gift if you take 15 minutes to tour around the book. Just head to intropsych.wwnorton.com/psych sessions.
It's 73.168.
That's exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I figured you wanted an exact number. I mean, that's why I'm so enamored with the SAT, because the numbers are exact. It doesn't matter if it's meaningful. What's important is that the numbers look exact. No, seriously, what I tell my own students is that they're college and graduate school, is that the main reason you're here isn't to learn the stuff in the courses, because that's going to be out of date in a few years anyway. The real reason is to figure out who you are and what is it you uniquely have to contribute. And if you can figure that out or start figuring it out, then going to college or grad school was worth it. And but at the same time, you have to figure out what you don't do well, because that's what brings you down. When people go after you, it's for the weaknesses. And so you have to you either have to make yourself good enough to get by, or you have to somehow improve yourself or compensate for your weaknesses. Like when my social intelligence is truly low. It really is. And like when I was at Oklahoma State as provost, I had this really great assistant who really did more than I did. But she was really, I was good on the vision thing, but not on the how do you handle people thing. I didn't give any of them IQ tests, but anyway. And so I wasn't always so good on the interpersonal stuff, and she was really good at that, and so she could sort of tell me what to do. So I could do what I was good at, which was, I think, the vision part, and what she did was help me with the things I don't do well. And that's the same with Karen, my wife. We're a great team, but a lot of it's because what we like to do and we're good at is completely different. And so, I mean, like, 2 minutes before we started this podcast, I got these sneaker inserts, and I got 2 of them. And so I cut the first one. My sneakers are size 12. So I cut it. And of course, I can't even cut the stupid sneaker insert. It came out as a size 11. So I wasted $20 or something on the first insert. And then I said to Karen, I purposely got 2 inserts in case the second one I needed because I screwed up the first one. So I asked her to do it, and she did it perfectly. I put it in. I'll give you another example. We were about to go on a trip to Scottsdale for Thanksgiving, and she made the dumb mistake of letting me start her car. So, I mean, who can't start a car? I mean, like, really, what kind of moron can't start? So I start the car, and it won't start, not only did I flood it, but I ruined the battery. We just picked it up today. So, I'm not very good at starting the car, but now I pointed out to her, we actually got a new battery on warranty. And I pointed out to her that she ought to be grateful to me because the warranty is about to expire. That battery would have soon gone bad and we would have to pay hundreds of dollars for it. And my strength was getting her a new battery for free. So that's how life is. You figure out what you do well. And then the things you don't do well, you have Karen there. If it's me, she does. But she puts on my suspenders. I can't get them on. So you really need people who will help you do the things you do badly. But there's one other thing I want to say about that, if I can, and that is, for much of my career, my role models were my mentors, who were absolutely terrific: Gordon Bauer at Stanford and Endel Toving at Yale, and Tex Garner, Wendell Garner, Yale. And I try to become like them. And I thought, there's such distinguished scientists and National Academy of Sciences members and all this stuff. And the older I get, the more I realize I'm not becoming more like them, I'm becoming less like them. And I went through a period where I was really down on myself because I not only was failing, but I was failing worse as the years went on. And then at some point, I had this realization that I needed to apply my own theory. And that is, you don't succeed by becoming someone else. That was the wrong goal. And I tell this to my students: don't try to be me, try to be you. You're not here to become a junior version of me. You're here to figure out who you are and maximize on that. So, you don't have to write a lot of articles. You have to find some other way that's you. And if you can figure out who you are and make the most of that, you're going to be really successful in anything you do. And so I had to apply it to myself. And otherwise, I'll never be like them, and that's okay. I'll be like myself.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. And then, is there a book that you've written that you would guide people to who want to learn more about that particular? And I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, well, because I keep changing my views, my books don't last very long. I'm just trying to make an excuse for the fact that none of them sells. I did write a book called Adaptive Intelligence that kind of covers some of this stuff, but I think these are lessons you kind of learn from experience. The other one, I wrote a book called Psychology 101 and a Half, which is about lessons that you can use in your career, that was based on my own career. And that sold a couple copies. And my mother bought one, and she's not alive anymore, but I hope it's not because of the book. I don't really know. Anyway, it wasn't that. I mean, it's not going to kill you to read the book. It did her, but it won't. Most people are stronger than she was.
We find out a little bit about your background. One of the things that we like to ask on the podcast is whether or not it was destiny for you to go to college. I mean, was it an expectation by your parents that you would go to college, and where would that be? Or were you a first gen person? What's that story?
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of that one. I'm first generation. My father, neither parent graduated from high school. My father dropped out of high school and went into his father's button business in Newark, New Jersey. So he was a button and thread salesperson. My mother left Vienna while she still could. And so she didn't graduate from high school, and she was a housewife. My father's goal for me was to take over his business, his button business in Newark. He was not into the whole college thing. And my mother wanted my brother and me to go to college. But I was, so there was no expectation. That's just what I wanted to do. And that's what I did.
And at what point did you envision yourself as a psychologist, and did you have any inkling that you would end up in every intro book that's ever been published?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I mean, there's some horrible books.
Pretty sure it's true.
Don't have me. Yeah. No, seriously. What got me interested in psychology was that I screwed up on IQ tests as a kid. I like to think it was test anxiety, but by now I think some of your listeners may have an alternative explanation. Anyway, I got very nervous. I knew who the school system psychologist was. In those days, the early 1800s, they would give us IQ tests every few years. And so I just totally screwed them up. And so that's when I decided I wanted to study intelligence. I told you, every idea I've ever had was something I screw up. You probably think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not.
I don't think you're exaggerating.
Yeah, well, good. You know me well enough.
I do.
Yeah.
Did you do well in intro?
Oh, yeah, I was a real star. I mean, I was so good, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, this is another brag, but I have to tell you how great I was. We took our first test. It was Psych 10, and there were maybe 120 kids in the class. So the professor, Robert Crowder, handed back the first test in descending order. So it was a 10-point test. And first he handed out the 10s, and then nothing obvious here going on. So he hands out the test, and the 10s can leave the room. And then he hands out the 9s, and the 9s could leave the room. Then he hands out the 8s, then the 7s. Well, I figure by the time he gets to 7, he must have gotten my paper out of order. I remember thinking that my paper must be out of order. Hands out the 6s, the 5s, the 4s. I got a 3. And they always there were only a few kids left at that point, and they were mostly star athletes that had something going for them. I was, as you can probably guess, not a star athlete. My kids are, the triplets are super cross-country runners and track stars, but I was not. So I got a 3, and the professor handed back the paper and said, there's a famous Sternberg in psychology is referring to Saul Sternberg, and it's obvious there won't be another one. So that didn't go too well. So I tried to work really hard because I got not only an F, but a low F on the first test. And I got a C in the course, which he told me he gave me as a gift. But the funnier thing about it is that when I was at Stanford applying for jobs, this guy who gave me the C in the course, he was the chair of the search committee that hired me. So I guess he changed his mind a little bit. So I went to Yale, and I stayed there 30 years.
Wow. What a great ending to that story.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the end. I mean, but the end will be in sight for me too. Not yet, though.
Did he remember you?
Oh, yeah, of course. So we stayed in touch. I took an advanced course from him and did quite a bit better in the advanced course than the honors. He was a great guy. I mean, I really liked him. It's funny, when I was a junior faculty member at Yale, there were 3 tenured Bobs, Bob Crowder, Bob Abelson, and Bob Riscord. I remember thinking, I'm not sure they probably have reached quota already, and I'm not sure they're going to tenure another Bob. But they did, so I stayed there.
I'm dying to know, as a teacher, what did you think of the strategy of passing out the test results in descending order?
Oh,
I mean, from your vantage point now.
It was a terrible idea. I mean, I would never do that. Obviously, you should do it in ascending order. No, I'm kidding. No, he shouldn't have done that. But what he did was, there was something he did that was actually worse. And that is, so what he did is he gave us a bunch of essays, and then he said, here, like 6 or 7 essays, and I'm going to pick 3 of them or whatever it was at the time of the test, and those he has. So I did the essays. I thought I wrote pretty great essay answers, and then the way he scored it was the 10 points he wanted you to make, and your score was the number out of 10 points that you made. Well, I made points, but not the ones he wanted me to make. Right before this, I got an email from a student. I mean, like 30 seconds before we started, and the email was, on question number 1 on quiz 3, which is a take-home, is there a specific answer you want? And he wrote back just before I started this. I said, no, I don't. It's an essay. I don't do what Crowder did, where I have 10 points they want you to make. What I care about is how they argue for their answers, not what their answer is. So that was a bit of negative role modeling. But he was a really great guy, and I really liked him.
Psych Sessions is proud to partner with Macmillan Learning. At Macmillan Learning Psychology, content matters, and these days, digital content matters more than ever. Macmillan Learning's Achieve elevates interactive teaching and learning with an extraordinary range of online course content in a powerful yet easy-to-use platform. Interactive ebooks, innovative assessments, engaging videos and activities, helpful instructor resources. Achieve brings it all together and makes it easy for you to find what you need and what you want. See for yourself. Go to macmillanlearning.com/psych sessions for an introductory tour today. Macmillan's Achieve for Psychology, engaging every student, supporting every instructor, setting the new standard for teaching and learning.
I'm thinking about our audience is generally teachers of psychology, and I'm at a community college. I, like so many, teach the intro psych course. And so that's our first exposure to your work is in those intro psych textbooks. And here's my question. I think we kind of started here today, which is, as your theories have changed over time, if I was an intro psych professor, what do my students need to know about your two theories, about intelligence and about love? What would you say are the takeaways that you would like students to have going out of the classroom?
I'll tell you, there are three takeaways: one about intelligence, one about love, and one about the theories themselves.
Now, why does it surprise me that there are three takeaways?
Well, why does it surprise me? I have triplets. I mean, like, why do I keep getting three for everything? But okay.
Well, in fact, I love when I'm talking about your work. Students I'm tickled. Students are really impressed that I refer to you as Bob. They go, "Oh, you knew him?" I said, "Yeah, he's still alive." And yes, I know him.
I don't know about the alive stuff.
I'm pretty sure you're still alive. But to talk about the triarchic theory and the triangular theory, and I usually follow up with, and just as a sort of fun thing that God did, he had triplets. Students roll with laughter when I say that. It's really fun. So that's what I would recommend people teach. But now you can go ahead and answer the question.
Okay. So I think the main thing about intelligence is, and this is what I tell my students, is to figure out who you are and what your contribution to the world is going to be, and how you're going to make it, and when you decide it's going to change, you're ready to change it, not get stuck in it. So have a vision for how you're going to make the world better and work toward that vision. And then after a while, you'll decide, well, this isn't working anymore, so I got to sort of changed my mind about it. And it's sort of life planning. It's planning your life, but not just for yourself, for other people too. It's making not only your world better, but everyone's world better. That's what I think is important. I think that the problem with their conceptions of intelligence, the biggest problem is that they're sort of narcissistic. They're about, how can I get a better job? How can I make more money? How can I have a better house? How can I have a gated community? Instead of, how can I make the world better? And if I make the world better, that'll help me too. So that's what I think is important about intelligence. Ask what do you have to contribute that's unique to you, that you're going to, that when you're 70, you'll look back on your life and say, I did something that made the world better. It might be a small thing, it might be a big thing, it might be a middle thing, but you can say there's things are better because I was here. So I think that's the important thing about intelligence, that you not use it just to get awards or money or fame or a bigger car or whatever, that it be oriented toward making the world a better place for everybody. So that's about intelligence. I think the important thing about love, the most important thing about love, is finding someone who you can share your life with, who is looking to do the same things with life that you are. So when I talk about, like what we keep finding is that the important thing in love is it's kind of like, if intimacy is important to you, but passion and commitment aren't so important, you find someone who is looking for the same thing. You're looking to match triangles and to match your ideal triangle. So you find someone who matches your triangle and is pretty close to your ideal of what, not your ideal, your real ideal, what's possible for you. So I distinguish between real ideals and ideal ideals. And what you want is someone who's, and the real ideal is something that's realistic. And so you match your triangles, you match your stories, that you have similar stories. And that the implicit theories part is that you want the same things from life. So that's what I think is important about love. That you're creating a story together and you want to do the same story, not one person wants one thing, the other wants the other thing. And the third thing is that you not get stuck. I think the biggest problem people have in careers and in personal life is they get stuck. The theories of love hold that relationships have to change. It's not optional. Like I have time courses for intimacy, passion, and commitment, and they're different. And they're different for different people. So your relationship with your partners will not stay the same. That's not option. That's what's going to happen. And it's recognizing that to stay together, you have to find a way of changing together. To have a career, you don't want to be one of these people who, when you're 70, is still talking about your dissertation, or the revamp of the revamp of the revamp of your dissertation. That you grow with time. So many academics get stuck in when they start off doing something. I had something happen to me that's kind of emblematic of this. That when I had just written my first cognitive psychology textbook, and I had a guy visiting, a very famous cognitive psychologist, and I proudly share him. It was 1996 that it first came out. It's actually coming out in a new edition. I mean, it's still around. But anyway, so this is my cognitive psychology textbook. He says to me, "Bob, you're not a cognitive psychologist anymore," which I found very hurtful because, I was a student of Tulving and Bauer, and I'm a cognitive psychologist. And he's telling me I'm not a cognitive psychologist because I committed the sin of studying love. And at first I was very hurt. And then I thought about it. I said, you really did a great thing for me, because I was stuck in a box. I was boxing myself in because my mentors were cognitive psychologists. And then I realized I don't have to be stuck in that box. And that's the way I feel about everything in life. Don't get yourself stuck. I never thought I'd go into administration. I mean, I thought that's the last thing in my life I'd do. And then I did that for some years, maybe a decade. And, I never thought I'd study love. I mean, I never thought I'd study hate. Just be open to new things, and don't get stuck in who you were when you were 20 or 25 or 30 or 35. So many people just can't let go of a them that they once were, that they no longer should be, but they don't want to give it up. So that's what I think is important to teach students.
Yeah, it's so interesting. In academia, we're told to check all of these boxes, and this goes on for year after year, and this is what you need to do to be successful. And then at some point you arrive, and maybe it's hard to know what else to talk about after you've been in the pipeline for that long.
Yeah, I think that one advantage I've had in life is that I'm a really crappy listener to those things. I just don't pay attention to all the things I'm supposed to do. I mean, I'm really terrible. I can't follow directions. That's another thing Karen is really, when I see directions, it's just like I start being dyslexic. I can't read them. And sometimes in life you need to follow directions, but I just have sort of gone my own way, and some people like it, a lot of people don't like it, and I tell students, you just have to be yourself. I had an experience that might be worth mentioning, and that is when I was coming up for tenure at Yale, I started hearing talk that I was in trouble because I was studying intelligence, which is a low prestige area in psychology, which it is, probably with good reason, but that's another story. Anyway, so I thought, I might be in trouble. So I went to talk to Wendell Gardner, my sort of faculty mentor. I said, I hear I'm in trouble because I'm studying intelligence. It's not a very prestigious area. And I asked him, what do you think I should do? I was thinking, and I said to him, if I'd called it problem solving or reasoning or something like that, concept formation, I could have done exactly the same work, but not then be labeled as in a junky field of psychology. So he said to me, well, when you came here, your goal was to change the field of intelligence, and that's been your goal since you were a young kid. And now you're afraid it may result in you not getting tenure at Yale. And the truth is, you're right. It may. But you want my advice to what to do, you should do exactly what you're doing, 'cause that's why you're here. And if you leave Yale, you'll go somewhere else. And that was great advice, and I followed it my whole life. You need to be yourself, and if people don't like it, to hell with it. So find someone who does like it. And I've done that. I've tried to do that in my career too. I mean, when there was one job I was in that I was just a really bad fit. I mean, most of the jobs have been a pretty good fit. I'm never a great fit because I don't really fit in anywhere, but I'm usually at least I'm a mediocre fit. But this one, it was a really crapo fit. And I left before they left me to leave. And it just wasn't the right thing for me to be doing for me, and I wasn't right for them. And sometimes you just say, well, this is the wrong place for me, it's the wrong place for them, or this theory worked for a while, but the theory doesn't work anymore. You just let go of things, and that's what you have to do sometimes.
I was going to ask you if you have regrets. I know at age 75, it's nice to be talking to someone who's exactly the same age as me. You spend some time retrospecting. And is the situation that you're referring to a big regret, or did you extract some lessons from that made it worthwhile?
Well, I would say of the jobs I've had, that's the only one that really was a bomb, or at least there was a hydrogen bomb. The others might have been TNT or something. But the lesson I learned is I probably shouldn't have taken it for their sake and for mine. But okay, it didn't work. So that's the way. What I tell students is that's the way life is. There are going to be situations you get into, and you're going to say, "What the frig was I thinking when I got myself into this situation?" And there'll be time, and I said to them that when I look back at who I knew as a student, when I was a grad student, or even undergraduate student, and I look at the people who today have really had some impact in the field, the biggest predictor, it's not their IQ, and it's not even quite their creativity, is that we all go through poop in our lives, metaphorical poop, and it's getting through that. It's like my latest theory of intelligence, which was published a few months ago, is an obstacle course theory, that really intelligence is like an obstacle course. It's that you're running in your life, and then some unexpected obstacle confronts you and you fall, and then you get up and you either go over the obstacle or you run around it, and then you think, well, that shouldn't have happened, but whew, that's over with, and then the next one hits you. And that's really what intelligence is. It's that it's not what you do when every day that doesn't matter. It's, can you get through these really bad situations in your life and pick yourself up, figure out, I need a new way to adapt, or a new game plan. And that is so crucial to life. So, there have been many, I've said in my talks on creativity that the most important thing is being resilient. It's you encounter obstacles and you somehow overcome them. And I still believe that.
Is there a triangular theory of poop management in your future?
Well, is this the point where you said I'm supposed to do the advertisement for the laxative? I can't remember what point in the show I was supposed to do that. Yeah, okay. I don't know about that, but I do think that, life throws you some tough things, and the hell of it is sometimes you create the bad situations for yourself. It's not always all these other horrible people. Sometimes it's you who gets yourself into them. And then you just have to get yourself out of the situation. But the important thing is to keep going. It's when you fall, you get up. You get hurt, and you just get up, and you don't spend your time saying, I'm a victim, I've been screwed, because maybe you are a victim and maybe you have been screwed, but you still keep going. And that's what I think is really important in a career. And it's all, and in your personal life, things screw up and you get yourself out of it and hope for the best. And so if everyone's life is checkered in some ways, or if it isn't, you must have had a boring life, and you just keep getting up and keep running or walking or whatever you're doing.
So at this point, I imagine that you have quite a lot of flexibility in what you put your time into, and you're still working with students. So can you just give us an idea now at 75, all the lessons learned? How have you structured your professional life at this point? And is it the way that you want it?
Oh, it's great. I have the best research group now I've ever had in my career, and that is absolutely true. I should be honest, I'm only 75 for 5 more days, and then that's over too. But anyway,
Happy birthday then.
It's almost there. So I have a group at Cornell of undergrads and grad students. There are about 15 of those, and we meet once a week on Zoom. And then I have a group of about 60, as I said before, that we meet by internet. We have an internet group, and they're great. We have super collaborations, and everyone does what they want. I mean, I really, what I talk about is what I do. I don't tell students what to do. I don't tell them how to do it. I'm here to help them become themselves, not to become someone I want them to be or some, prototype of what I think they should be. I'm here to help them discover who they can be and where they can make a difference to the world. And I've been writing a lot about transformational creativity and transformational giftedness and now transformational wisdom. And what I try to instill in them is the importance of using your work not only to make your life better, but to help the world become a better place, because it's really screwed up now. We're editing. I was just working this morning on a book we're editing. I usually have a lot of books going on, and this is an edited book on applying psychology to serious world problems. And I think people can agree that things right now are not the way anyone would want them to be. And so what I say to them is, that's why we're in psychology. It's to use psychology to figure out how to solve these problems. And that's what we're trying to do. But a lot of the work doesn't do that, but that's the work that I personally like the most. Not everyone would agree with that. Some people don't care.
Yeah, well, I think you have 2 people here in this room that align with that philosophy in the way that we talk to students about, in some ways, the power of applying psychology to everyday life and maybe even bigger issues than that. Jane, what do you want to ask Bob about? Well, we got him here.
I'm dying to ask, how are you dealing with, if your life is like mine, the kind of constant question of why aren't you retired yet? Have you figured out a good answer when people are bugging you to hang it up?
Yeah, well, I have a few answers. One is I have 3 kids who are 14 years old, and I don't have the money to retire. Karen does some teaching, but she doesn't have a steady income. So we would be on the street if I weren't working. So that's number one. Number 2 is I have the best research group I've had in my career, and I'd hate to give that up. And I guess number 3 is I think I'm about as productive as I've ever been. I still publish about the same amount per year. And I've got a lot going on, and I've told people, when you see me beginning to fade or, become slightly senile, or then I'll retire from this and I'll run for president of a country.
Does that satisfy you, Jane?
It did very much.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for a campaign manager. I need to become a little more demented.
Okay, we can talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here and chat with us. I know that lots of folks are going to enjoy listening to this and to see where these theories landed in the end, and who came up with them. I think this will be really fun for folks.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's really nice talking to you, and I'll try to eat more ultra-processed foods. So, Jane, I'll become demented a little faster, and then you can help me become. We can be co-presidents, or I can pretend to be president. You can really do this job, as was the case when I was provost and I was pretending to be provost. So,
there it is. There's the callback. Yeah. All right, folks.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Good talking to you. Bye.